Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, two blokes chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
David Barnes, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, blokes. How are we?
Very good. Very good of you to come off...
And to call us by our correct title.
Come off the bench and support the Barnes family. Young Joshua away for a mystery weekend with the lads. Not quite sure where he is or what he's doing, but Alex Oates filled in for him as far as journalistic stuff goes, and you're doing the family fill-in, so we appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be involved, gents.
Now let's get straight to it.
To hear Oatesy. You've been fine to him.
Yes. Straight to the music theme. Have you got it?
Well, I've had a few little thoughts around that, a number of words and song titles, etc., and algorithms to figure that out. But, we'll keep those things for Saturday afternoon, the live scoring and my cricket. Now, I just had a thought that perhaps some of the song title might be in brackets.
Bang!
He's got it.
Got it.
Some of the song title is in brackets.
So, Make Me Smile, brackets, come up and see me, close brackets.
Yeah.
Brackets, until, close brackets, your love broke through.
That was a tricky one.
Brackets, I never promised you a, close brackets, rose garden. Brackets, I've had, close brackets, the time of my life. Don't you, brackets, forget about me, close brackets. And El Conde Pasa, brackets, if I could, close brackets.
Now, what is all that? What does that crap mean? You're a school teacher, Barnesy, you're clever. Why do we need brackets in a song title? What's going on there? That's ridiculous.
Well, there are a number of songs that, for example, I've had at the time of my life is properly called The Time of My Life, but most people would think it's called I've Had, so they put that bit in brackets in the song title. So, for example, the song by Kate Bush called Running Up That Hill.
Yeah.
The interesting story behind that one, Running Up That Hill is actually called Running Up That Hill, brackets, a deal with God, close brackets. It almost got a run this morning. But the story goes that when Kate Bush wrote that song, it was called A Deal with God. And she took it to the record company, and the record company said, if we put that out, no commercial radio station is going to play it. It's got the word God in the title. So she said, no. Bzz. So they agreed that they would call it A Deal with God, brackets, Running Up That Hill. And in fact, when they put the record out, it was called Running Up That Hill. And so she kind of got her way, but she didn't really get her way.
Cleverly done.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's this morning's theme. Well done. David, I think if we're going to have you, we should have you as a regular segment, because Rob's got no idea.
Some mornings I peak early, but no good today. So, very good to you. Barnesy, before we get into your passion of local sport, your passion of music, it really does impress me. How is that something that's been in your life as long as you can remember?
Basically growing up with three sisters and a brother who was a little bit younger than them and still a bit older than me. There was a fair bit of music on the radio around the time of the Beatles coming to Australia. And as you can imagine, with three sisters of the screaming age.
I'm with you, yep.
Yeah, so it sort of got ingrained a bit, and there's a lot of memorabilia that I remember seeing around the house and things like that, tea towels and things of the Beatles, and so it sort of got ingrained, and that was before my sort of love of sport came around, but it sort of clashed a little bit, because I don't know if you blokes remember a thing called a Beatle wig.
Yes, I remember them. They were made out of plastic.
Yeah, black plastic, and you whacked it on your head and you suddenly became a Beatle.
Yeah, Rob still wears one in the studio.
Yeah. My sisters all had one of them, and that became a footy for me, and I got in all sorts of trouble.
Well, presumably they weren't wearing it at the time.
No.
Interesting piece of trivia. Sorry, before we go, a piece of trivia about the Beatles concert in 1964. I was talking. Sorry, I'll drop it. You pick it up, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to Johnny Chester about this one day. Johnny Chester was one of the support acts. Interestingly, he and his band, the Chessmen, he was asked to be a support act, and when he said, "Yeah, no, we'd love to," they said, "No, you," and he said, "No, I won't do it unless the Chessmen are part of it." And so he went back and proudly told the Chessmen, who said to him, "Are you nuts? Go, do it." And so he said one of his great memories was between the two concerts, they do a 27-minute concert, the Beatles, twice a night. So they did 6 concerts at Festival Hall over 3 nights, 27 minutes, and in between times he'd sit between Paul McCartney and John Lennon eating fish and chips. And he said these days it's just the most surreal thing. But at the end of the 27 minutes, they'd go off stage and the place would go bananas, right, as you can imagine. Do you know how they got the crowd to settle down? And I just think, you explain this to young people today, they won't believe you. 3 policemen dressed in the full long coats that they used to wear when they were doing point duty, and the big white gloves, that came right up past the elbow, stood up on stage and they played God Save the Queen, and the entire audience stops screaming and stands up. Can you imagine that now?
No, that wouldn't work.
I just find it bizarre. But you can see it on YouTube if you want to go looking for it.
Barnesy, I was going to ask you about the music again, because I love music as well, but the knowledge of, like Neil has, of behind the scenes of the music and your love of albums.
Make up one or the other.
Yeah, but that intrigues me. So that's more than just liking music. That's a passion.
Yeah, it's just a brain full of useless facts. Trivia, yeah.
Hey, back the truck up. Not useless. If you're ever hosting a radio program, it's pretty handy.
Or at a trivia night, they're very handy.
Yes, yeah, my wife and I are pretty good at trivia. Yeah. They like to have us in their teams.
Yes. Do you get sick of people saying, "Oh, you should be on my team," and never inviting you? That's the thing. They just say that.
I might remember that if they ever have one out at Mottawarri where no one else will know who you are. They won't be looking for you. I might just ring you in. That'd be good.
They'll call me Fine Cotton from that point on, will they?
David, you've been involved in local cricket and footy. Very passionate South Barwon Football Club person. Did that start at Belmont or Barwon?
Started at Belmont in the under 14s. Yeah, straight out of Little League, YMCA Little League.
So, what age are you? We might have played in the grand final against each other.
61.
Oh, I know you're a bit young. I was playing in the David, Burns, Stevenson, Quentin, Ian Sweet, David Boyd, those days.
Yeah.
Jeff Boyle.
Sweet and Stevenson, Quentin I played against, absolutely.
Yeah, I played in a Mottawarri grand final against them many, many, many years ago. And cricket takes you to Newtown, which is really odd because Belmont Footy Club, pretty rough around the edges, working class club, Newtown Cricket Club, anything but. What happened there?
Well, it was Belmont Church of Christ. I started when I was, an 8-year-old fearing the 13-year-old pace bowlers trying to head off.
Yep.
And my older sister's given me a nickname of Duck because that's how many ducks I used to make.
And what a tragedy that is that you've announced that on radio. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to speak to Duck Barnes.
That's a disaster. So Belmont Church of Christ, and you go through the grades and you get to under 13, you have the privilege of having that final year in the top of the class, and we won a premiership with a young fellow called Andrew Scott as our best player.
Ooh,
and
there's a name.
Yeah, and then he went to East Belmont, a little bit older than, he was a year younger than me, so he eventually went to East Belmont before heading up the road to Paran, and I went to Newtown because my grade 6 teacher was a fellow called Paul Anderson, and he was an extremely prominent person, first 11 wicketkeeper at Newtown and Jewel, and he had the smarts to invite the grade 5s and 6 down to Queen's Park to play on turf. I think it was a Wednesday afternoon.
Yep.
Have a little bit of a scratch match down on turf, and I was sold. Simple as that.
Paul Anderson also taught at the Wordy Bullock State School, taught my older brothers, and left a very great impression on them, as he has on many around the Geelong cricket circles.
Indeed. Great man, Paul.
Interestingly, I actually played for the same club as Glenn Maxwell.
Oh, did you?
On one occasion. That
means nothing to me.
I was drafted into the Doncaster Dowling Shield team, and I was dragged in by my grade 5-6 teacher. All these grade 5-6 teachers are dragging kids into their teams. These days, people ask them questions.
My grade 5-6 teacher was a fellow named Noel Mullen, who you would have crossed swords with on the odd occasion too, David.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So he was very influential on my sporting career as well. So Paul Anderson...
He uses the word career very loosely, you understand.
Yeah, that's true. Paul Anderson, there's a lot of Paul Andersons around. They do make a big impression on people. Yourself have done the same thing. Did you feel somewhat of an obligation from having a great mentor yourself that you would like to be a great mentor as you got older, because you have been?
Well, I was lucky to be surrounded by many of them at Newtown and Chewell Crew Club growing up. And when I became secretary at the age of about 20, I think it was, there were people around me like Bob Merriman and Don Royce, Ed Parker, who was at the VCCL for 30 years, running that association, and certainly a wide variety of outstanding mentors there. And I sort of felt, well, maybe I'm the next generation.
You're in the midst of that great Newtown era, and with it came some respect, admiration, but also maybe some dislike and disrespect. Thinking back, was there an aura of arrogance around how good you were, or was it just purely that you were successful that you think people didn't warm to the club?
Well, we were obviously successful, and obviously the opposition didn't like us because of that. But we adopted a couple of themes along the way to keep the momentum, and sort of into the second season, we adopted Snoopy as a logo, as a
mascot.
Mascot is the word, and it was the same time the West Indies were just outstanding in world cricket and really developing into the great team they were. So we used sort of slogans like "So easy, man." We'd have a new T-shirt every year, and I think that grated with people. It was just far too arrogant, really, when you look back at it.
Yep. Now, I want to put this to you because from afar, the starting off of the new, as we know it, Premier Cricket Geelong Cricket Club, which you've also been heavily involved in as well, the initial stages of that had a heavy Newtown connection for whatever reason it was, and you might know why. Don Royce, Bob Merriman, a couple of names that come to mind. But do you think that might have been one of the reasons why the Geelong Cricket Club initially were not warmly accepted by clubs around the region?
Oh, look, I'm two ways with that one. That Geelong Cricket Club, handpicked people to help them start the club, basically. And it was also a time when our first 11 was going very well. So we had, 4 or 5 outstanding players, Tony Jeffries, Brett Goggin, Brad Stacey, those sort of players who headed down to either start up in the seconds or in the first, as most of them did. And it, in many ways it gutted our club, but it was a challenge that we promoted because it had to happen for the betterment of Geelong players.
Yeah.
But it may have had some effect, but we certainly didn't see it that way, and we're more than happy to have our administrators and players and coaches, Bruce Nunn and Ken Davis, of course, was associated early. And Paul Anson also was one of those administrators.
Yeah.
And there's the treasurer. So, it was one of those things that we needed, the region needed good people there, and we just happened to have a few at the time.
Yeah, and it's taken a long, long time, but I really like it at the moment. I think the clubs have finally understood the importance of the Geelong Cricket Club. They're starting to see the kids go in, but then they get them back and they come back better. So do you think they've got it right at last?
Yeah, look, I think you find it in nearly all of the clubs back in GCA and some in Ballerine too, that there are Geelong players who have gone back as ambassadors and have spread the message brilliantly that it can be a two-way street, and it should be a two-way street.
Yeah, I think it's working really well at the moment. I suggest the Geelong Cricket Club will benefit from it as the individuals within, but I think it'll make cricket in the region much stronger as well. So it's taken a while, but I think we've got it right.
Oh, and look, the realism is that there are career paths involved now. I mean, there's young people who are outstanding cricketers who used to have to be in the best 15 in the country. Now you can be in the best 30 or 40 and have a career path in cricket. Yeah,
no doubt about it. David, thank you so much for the time. Well done on the brackets answer to the question, which would have eluded me for many, many guesses. And also, we've mentioned through Alex Oates the nice things he said about your son. I guess your family, like us, are very proud of what he has done.
Yeah, it was fairly glowing about the young boy who's run away with his mates down to Lismore for a camping weekend. But,
Lismore.
yeah.
Jeez,
Crickets. Decent pies in Mortlake.
So I don't know the pies. I think it'll be more sausages and refreshments.
No, good on him while he's young.
Fantastic, and thank you guys for your support. It's been brilliant, and he's going really well. Almost living the dream, you'd have to say.
No, it's no doubt. He impressed me as I said, about 11 or 12 years of age, whatever he was when I first met him. He's a good lad, and he's done well. Thank you, David. All the best. We will keep in touch.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Rob.
All the best, Duck.